how to actually heal in your everyday life. What is the practical guide? I'm going to give you a practical guide, and I'm going to include some markers so you can check yourself against these markers and see where you are on your own healing journey and how you can progress against these markers. Now, these markers I come up after years of working with people who had been traumatized, had been abused, from really big childhood stuff to something to much lighter experiences. I also done my own healing work, and these are the things that I really come up with. So, the markers that are really showing you that are able to show you where you truly are on your healing journey. So this is not marketing trend that suddenly, goes viral on social media, because this is real life. I tested these markers against real life, and this is what repeatedly was showing up on my own healing journey and on the healing journeys of the clients that I had been working with for years. And I was like, these are the markers for healing. So let's talk about them. So the markers for healing, first of all, are your emotional states. So what sort of emotional states are dominant in your everyday life? So I will get into the details to every of these markers so you can kind of have the gist of it, but let me name them first. Okay, so emotional states, your inner dialogue, so how you converse in your head with yourself, and also the inner conversations that you have with other people. Really important. So it's almost like the inner dialogue, the inner conversation is what your conscious mind is, the direction and focus and attention of your conscious mind. Then what do you do actually? So what actions, behaviors, decision-making processes, what are you actually doing? So how are you behaving? How are you acting? Let's say today, yesterday, the day before. What are you actually doing? And this is really important, that you're going to be able to, say okay, this is what I'm doing. Okay, what was the intention actually behind that action? Were you defending yourself against maybe feeling an emotional state that it's uncomfortable? Or maybe actually that was springing already from that healed version of you that is not abandoning themselves, but actually okay, I can feel the shame, of maybe saying no to someone, and the guilt and shame and fear maybe, because sometimes those feelings can combine, and actually still say no and keep the boundary in place. So that is what you do. And this is, how you do and how you behave. Then another marker is your environment. So what sort of environments you are engaging with? What sort of environments are the ones that I keep on repeating? How you are interacting with these environments. So that is really important as well. And the last marker, people in your life. Who are the people in your life? What is your social network? Family, friends, intimate partner or partners, whatever your arrangements are, whatever your contracts are in a way. These are the markers, okay? So write it down. Emotional states, inner dialogue, what do you do, your environment, and people. And now this is the status quo. So this is basically, I'm about to sneeze. Bless me. So what is really important is for you to write it down and see, okay, what is the current status quo? So we're not creating an ideal version of you, because the healed version of you is not perfect or ideal. It's simply human that can embody more of life. That's kind of what I would say. So what are your dominant emotional states? This is really important, guys, because here the healed version of you has a quite broad emotional range. So is not threatened, the healed version of you is not threatened by the feeling of shame, but also it's not threatened by the feeling of joy, and it can feel joy. So when you're going to be looking at the emotional states, see how well you are able to step into a particular emotional state without escaping it, avoiding it. And that goes for both pleasant emotional states like joy, creativity, love, but also unpleasant emotional states like maybe anger, fear, guilt, shame, whichever that one is for you, because again, that will be quite individual. For some people, feeling shame is so normal and normalized, but they don't know how to feel joy, etc. So you have to think about those markers in, and treat them very individually. Now, the inner dialogue, this is the direction and focus of your conscious mind. So you have to be very honest with yourself. How are you talking to yourself in your mind, and how are you talking to other people in your mind? And you cannot escape that, guys. What I discovered is that the more you are judging other people, and this is huge, especially we judging the people who are triggering us the most, you are tethering yourself to that. So your conscious mind is constantly coming back to that, and those kind of neural pathways, you're walking them again and again and again. And that's unfortunately what will then later create the behavior. So the inner dialogue, and being very honest about your own inner dialogue without falling into heavy self-criticism, because it's not about, the markers are not here to provide you with, I'm gonna, like, I am so bad, this is really horrible what I'm doing, I am so unhealed. No, the markers are there to bring objectivity onto your healing journey. So, and these are two different things: self-criticism and being very critical, and actually honest, objective feedback, two different things, okay? So emotional states and inner dialogue, you will notice that they will be the drivers of your behavior. So that's why I want you to be very honest with yourself, and and say, like, okay, what do I do in my everyday life? What are my behaviors? Are my behaviors like, am I mainly escaping maybe something, or avoiding something? Maybe like, we really like escaping into different things to avoid feeling certain emotional states. Again, there's a lot of nuance to that, but here I want to just to give you the gist of those healing markers, so you will be able to check yourself against them. Yeah. Now, and the environment and the people, these are pretty much self-explanatory. So you can basically look at what environments are keep on repeating in your everyday life, and do you want to change anything about them? That is for you to decide, and again, with the people. And you can go into the video that I've done about like how to make like a proper boundaries with people in your life, and the boundaries that are not actually toxic or dramatic, but actually a proper adult mature boundaries. So when it comes to the people, you have to also be honest with yourself, like, who is meeting my needs, with whom I can engage in a more profound way, with whom not. Those people who are not meeting your needs, there's nothing wrong with them. They simply have a different capacity, and you have to respect that and not force them to meet your needs when they cannot. So this is it. Now, once you have these markers and you mark yourself today, let's say on the day 1, I want you to do almost like a review after day 7. So don't look at those markers every single day, because that kind of goes into that, can fall into that self-monitoring, which is not very good. So forget about coming back to those emotional markers every single day. It's not emotional, healing markers every single day, and just go back at the end of the week. So each 7 days, you are making like a review, and then look at them and be really honest again with yourself, and think about, okay, where am I? What has moved against those markers? What have I changed, if anything? Because maybe you changed nothing. Maybe you're currently still at the stage of observation. That's okay. That is already moving. So what has moved? But also, again, do you think like you're observing because you're like avoiding something, or are you actually observing because you don't have the clarity yet? Two different things. Yeah. You need to know the nuance. You need to know you have to discern between the two. So, what is stuck potentially? And the most important thing, do I need help? Do I actually think that maybe I should book a session with a professional who can help me to see, like, okay, this is because these markers, they will be almost like showing you, okay, these are my potential blind spots. This is something that keeps on cropping up on my healing journey. Book one session with a good professional And I promise you, you're gonna push the needle in the right direction, because you're gonna be given a proper action plan, and you're not gonna be longer stuck. And that will also provide you with a very objective feedback. So carry on with the plan. And what I would say, if you want to do it by yourself, that's absolutely fine. But then after 4 weeks, so let's say after 4 times you've done that 7-day review, just check, like, am I actually stuck? Am I repeating certain patterns? And try not to pivot too much up until those 4 weeks. So after 4 weeks, this is like, it will give you a bit more objective data. And I want you to treat it like that. Those markers are there to provide you with an objective data, objective information. So it's almost like you starting treating the healing journey as a scientific process that you are engaging with, and that's it. So all the kind of the heaviness of this emotional, like, I gotta heal, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, is removed, because now you have the markers. Potentially you know when to seek help, and potentially one session would be more than enough to actually give you that clarity. Because if you are, let's say, watching my videos, and if you are engaging in this type of content, I would say you probably need 1, maybe 2 sessions, and definitely a breather, a space between one and the other, because you will need some time to actually implement the action plan and integrate the stuff that you spoke with your therapist or a coach, whoever you decide to hire. And if you want to hire me, you've got the links down below. There's a link to my website. You can see the feedback that I got from my long-term clients that I had been working with, so you can see what sort of results they got with me. Plus, of course, like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you find this information helpful. And I'm going to see you in my next video. Bye bye.